Hello and welcome to the Law Podcast, brought to you by the University of Stirling Law Society. I am your host, Jedd France. Today I am joined by our Mooting Counsel, Magen and Holly, to discuss their recent success at the Lord Jones Mooting Competition and explain how to get involved with our mooting club should you wish to join. So hello everyone, welcome back to the show. Hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone is enjoying a good start to 2021. Today I am delighted to be joined by our Mooting Counsel, Holly Thomas and Magen McNulty. I'm just going to ask our guests to give a brief introduction as to who they are, a bit of background facts on them, just so everyone is familiar with who is on the show today. So Magen, would you like to give a brief introduction first?
Yeah, hi everyone, I'm Magen. I'm a fourth year at the University of Stirling studying the LLB. I'm one of the members of the Mooting Council along with Holly, and we recently competed in the Lord Jones Moot, which is mainly what we'll be talking about today.
Perfect, yeah, and like Magen says, we will talk about the Lord Jones Moot, which was great. I was there spectating, cheering the girls on. It was really interesting, and like I say, it's something that we will go on to talk about. So Holly, would you like to say a few words as well?
Yeah, so I'm Holly. I'm in second year doing the LLB as well, and yeah, had a good time doing the Lord Jones Moot this weekend, and I'm glad to have my weekends back.
Definitely.
Yeah, I can only imagine how much effort had to go into like preparing for that, because obviously it's a very intense environment, shall we say, to be involved in, but you guys did very well, and it's something that we will touch on in a few minutes or so. So just for anyone who is maybe listening to this who hasn't or had maybe heard of mooting as a law student but doesn't really know much about it, Magen, could you just give us kind of like a brief intro as to what mooting is and what it's all about?
Yeah, the best thing I could probably compare it to is it's almost like British parliamentary debating, but in a mock court setting. So with BP, you've got you're in teams of two, someone opens the speech with their points, and then the second person extends it and closes. With mooting, it's like that, except it's legal arguments instead of a normal debate. So you've got your junior counsel who speaks first, introduces the points of law that you're going to be challenging, the submissions that you're going to make to the court about the case at present. It changes every time, but for the Lord Jones Moot, we only had 5 cases that we could choose to back up our argument. And then the senior counsel will then extend the argument, round up all your submissions at the end, and basically either ask the court to reject or accept the appeal, or to award or dismiss damages.
Yeah, and it's a very formal process, and it does get quite intense, especially when the judge is asking questions in between. I find it can be quite hard to try and build that kind of consistent flowing argument when you're being interrupted every 30 seconds, but of course that's just part of the process. So Holly, on to you. How did you find your way into mooting? Because I know it is something that you've took up this year. Like, what drew you to it in the first instance, and how did you manage to get involved?
So I was drawn to it really because of my interest in criminal law, particularly prosecution, and it kind of just took its own life from there. Like, I really wanted to kind of see if it was a type of environment that I would be comfortable in. It also just doesn't affect like criminal, you've got your civil proceedings as well. So it was a really good way for me to kind of figure out if court work was actually something that I really wanted to do, or maybe just more going to like conveyancing, kind of work out where I wanted to be in law. How I kind of got into the Mooting Council was I originally went for a position equal to Magen's, in the sense of what they call the mistress of the moot, or the mister of the moot. And I just missed out, probably just because of my, it was my first year going. It was pretty ambitious of me to this interloper coming in. But you're automatically on the Mooting Council if you join the Mooting Society through the Facebook page. If you also become a member of the Law Society as well, that can bring you in as well. And I would just say it's like a really open community. It's not just necessarily for law students. If you're into debate and if you're doing like a philosophy course or whatever, actually it's a really good way of producing high quality communication skills, producing like an argument. So you can kind of like develop really important skills for any role, I would say.
Yeah, there's a lot of transferable skills involved in mooting. It's something that I noticed last week in the first rounds of the Lord Jones Moot, and yesterday on the Saturday for the semi-final and final as well. It's very intense, and it definitely must build your confidence in terms of speaking, being prepared for, when you're making an argument, you're not just going to get to make that argument and move on. Someone's going to press you on that, and you have to be prepared to back it up and show your reasoning for using a particular case or a particular piece of legislation or anything like that. So, Magen, just on you, how did you manage to find your way into mooting? I know you said you've been involved in debating and stuff, so is it something you've always done in university, or is it something you've took up in the past couple of years?
The only experience before the Lord Jones competition was my second year commercial moot. But I've been into public speaking and debating. Like, we used to have an inter-school mock UN debate that was like the whole sort of district council, so it was like 40 high schools, and yeah, it was really enjoyable and thrilling. And then in my last year of high school, I did public speaking, and I won the national competition, and then I went on to represent Scotland internationally. So I just sort of wanted a challenge, if that makes sense. Like, I wanted to try something new because my comfort zone is really public speaking. So yeah, I just thought it sounded really interesting. It was my last year of uni, and I thought, well, there's no guarantee that I'm going to have the time to do it when I'm studying my diploma, because it is so intensive. So I kind of thought, well, this year's the way to go. So yeah, I went for the position of Mistress of the Moot, and here we are.
I mean, if that was both your first external competition in mooting, then you both absolutely smashed out of the park, because that would never come across. You both were very confident, you looked very prepared, very composed, and honestly, massive props to the pair of you for doing it. So, just on to the Lord Jones Moot. I suppose I'll come to you first, Holly, as the junior in the competition. How did you find it, and did you have any original goals going into the competition? I suppose if it was your first moot, your first external competition, you were really just hoping to get through it without any major mishaps, I suppose?
Yeah, I think the number one thing in my head was don't make a fool of yourself. So I think being the very first one, and having literally no experience whatsoever, we haven't even done our second year commercial moot yet. So
yeah, I know.
So it was a very much, poor Megan was leading a blind person through it. Like it was really like not good for her. So I think the first thing for me is literally just focus on my strengths. I knew we had a really good argument on both sides, so I was confident in our research skills, I was confident in our argument. I had my argument typed up, and I just thought, right, what are my strengths? And I don't have any background in public speaking, but what I do have a background in is drama. So I just thought, right, what can I do to make my argument stand out? And I just applied my dramatic skills to it, in the sense of certain inflections and certain words that I wanted the judge to really pick up on. Like, for example, the court dismissed this, kind of thing. Just trying to drive home the point, making sure that my speech was slow and clear. Because I'm also classed as a DSA student, I struggle with questions. So the biggest thing for me was just to remember was, if I get a question that I don't understand what they've asked me, it's not to panic. It was just to be like, oh, your lordship, do you mind just clarifying what you mean by that? Or just like, give me the answer. Or just like, just take my time. So I had a glass of water, so if I wasn't sure about something, I would take a sip of water just to give myself a pause so I could think about what they were asking me. And it was really also just to support Megan, because though I had like a full point of duty of care in this particular moot, Megan had another like 3 points. So it was how to also make sure that I introduced her in an appropriate and formal way that etiquette requires, but also backing up what she was saying as well. And I think, to be honest, the fact that, we got past the first round, I was absolutely delighted.
Yeah, it was amazing. You both did very, very well. And Holly, like the way you speak and your moots, I find it very powerful because the way you talk with such like a slow pace, and like you say, with your background in drama, the way that you place emphasis on particular words that you want people to pick up on or that sides with your argument it's really good. And me and Angelica, my girlfriend, were sitting watching you talk, and we were like, she's really good. She's really, really good. So honestly, massive congratulations for your performance, because you were great. And likewise, Magen, you were absolutely fantastic as well. So just over to you, Magen. As the senior counsel in the Lord Jones Moot, did you have any expectations? Obviously, I'm sure you're glad getting to the semi-final, as it was your first external competition, but was that as far as you wanted to go, or not? I'm sure you would have liked to have gone further, but what I mean is, was that your minimum that you expected to get to, or did you surpass expectations?
Well, the way the rounds work is you're guaranteed rounds 1 and 2 to give you the opportunity to argue both sides. So in round 1 we were the appellant, and in round 2 we were the respondent. And then based on the aggregated points from each round, the top 8 teams out of 12 go through to the quarterfinal. So my aim was basically to get into the quarterfinal, because it meant that we'd be somewhere in the top 8, which would be absolutely fantastic, because it means that we'd passed the first hurdle. So we weren't, the bottom at the bottom, which would have been great. But we were actually 3rd out of 12 on aggregated points, which was absolutely mental, is the only way I can put it. So I was over the moon, bouncing about the place. But then the quarter final is knockouts, the same with the semi-final into the final. So points don't really matter. It's just who sufficiently convinces the judge that their side of the law should win the outcome of the case. So I find it quite difficult to prepare for. I've not studied DLEX since I was in first year, in my first semester, I think. So
Yeah.
I had to go and borrow one of my friend's little sister's textbooks, because she's just in first year just now, and go and do some reading. So I had to go and socially distance a textbook, which was hilarious, because I had to go and ask VRAG for a textbook, and try and study it. And I just found that between, trying to write the argument and fix the bundles, which were a disaster, and I care for a wee sick animal, and also try and eat and sleep, it was really difficult. To be honest with you, it was fun but difficult.
Yeah, you've had a lot on your plate recently, Magen, so the fact that you managed to get the bundles across and turn up and really give a good account of yourself is massive props to you, and my respect for the pair of you is sky high, because it's something that is not easy, and it must be really nerve-wracking. And I know it's something that you mentioned yesterday in the call, Magen, like I feel like it might have been a little bit easier if it was in person, because you can see everyone, you kind of know what to expect. With it all being online, you're just kind of sitting behind your desk or your table or whatever it is, and you're just waiting for your chance to speak. And obviously you've got the added pressure of hopefully no one's Wi-Fi drops, hopefully your microphone works okay, hopefully you don't freeze. There's a lot of added pressure when it's all online. But no, massive congratulations to the pair of you, and it was a really great success for the Mooting Society, or the mooting side of things for the Law Society at Stirling, and it was absolutely great to see you both doing so well. So just on to the mooting side of things for the society at Stirling, like what is the thinking behind that? Because I know we have a separate Facebook page. It's pretty much going off in its own direction, which is great to see. So what's the purpose, and what do you hope to achieve, both in the short term and in the long term? So I suppose that'll be a question more directed at Magen.
Well, to start, when I came to Stirling, there wasn't much in the way of mooting. And in my 3rd year, I think, in the November of my 3rd year, I was told that I would have the chance to moot against St Andrews in person, but it was cancelled the week before. So we didn't even actually prepare our speeches yet. We'd just sort of been sent the case and told to have a look at it for 2 weeks' time. So I I really, really wanted to do that. Like, I was excited, absolutely thrilled. I was like, yes, I've not done this since second year, really excited. And then obviously that opportunity was taken away. So there's never really been a big traction on mooting within the law students or anyone at Stirling. So really, I just want to, get the ball rolling, get people interested, and hopefully, in a couple of years' time, we might be like other universities that have their own mooting societies. Not that we want to take it away from the law society because it is inherently law-based, but it's
Yeah.
just you do want to build up that culture and interest so that maybe you do have, 30 students joining a call to moot once a month or something like that. Because these other unis that have really successful mooting societies and are successful at competitions like Strathclyde and Glasgow, who won the Lord Jones Mooting, Dundee, who organises it, and they also got into the final. They have so many students interested and so many students that have a passion for it. And I think that is because they do run internal moots, and also they have the option to do moots as coursework in their fourth year, like Dundee. They can do like an international moot instead of a dissertation and stuff like that. So I just think giving students the option and making it seem interesting is the most important thing to build it up.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And on the call yesterday, when I think it was Dundee said that they could do like an international moot rather than a dissertation, I'm sure some people would love to bite the hand off for that, because I'm sure
would.
people, yeah, I'm sure there'll be people who are more suited to that rather than writing, like a 12,000 word document essay on a particular topic. There'll be people who are wanting to go into court work or who are more comfortable with kind of like, competitive speaking and stuff and preparing an argument that way, who prefer to do that, which is something I never even knew existed. So it was really interesting to hear that. So just over to you, Holly. What do you hope to do moving forward? Is it something that you're going to keep an active interest in until your last years?
Oh my gosh, definitely. I think what exactly kind of piggybacking off what Megan's just said is I would like to get a lot more internal mooting happening in the uni. So just basically doing like a couple of informal internal moots just to build interest, build a skill set, build an understanding that it's actually not as like scary or difficult as it sounds. It's actually really, really quite enjoyable. Build like a really good team kind of atmosphere as well, because I think when you trust in your team, it massively helps as well, because you don't feel like you're like, I never once felt that like I had to like pull Megan out, or I don't think Megan felt that she ever had to like carry me. So it was like we trusted each other, and if we heard something like a point of law that the students on the opposing team, we were like, oh, we can contest that. We would text each other and message it. So it's like building that kind of trust and teamwork I really want to do. And also I'd really like to get some more external judges in for like those internal moots, mainly because we had a really, really nice judge, Professor Bert Kerrigan, for two of our moots. One in the quarterfinal. Oh, sorry, no, he wasn't the quarterfinal, it was round two, and and he was in the semi-final. And okay, he's very, very good, so you get quite difficult questions, but his feedback is just, it's exemplary. Like the way that he words things, he builds your confidence even when it's constructive criticism. And that was one thing that me and Megan took away from this weekend, was he basically said that he hoped that we followed a career path in law and that we'd be very good at it. And I think particularly in this environment, we both kind of went, oh my God, we've won. Like that felt like winning to us. So I really want to like get people like him in to build our students' confidence to know that we are actually a really, really good law school, and we could be a really formidable mooting society and a mooting team. We had ambitions to do the ICC this year, but it just hasn't happened, which is the International Criminal Court moot. So we've got big ambitions for this society, and I would just like to take the amount of effort that like Megan's put through, especially now, I just want to take that energy and move that forward for her. And yeah, kind of that's the kind of vision that I've got for this.
Yeah, and hopefully on the back of the Lord Jones success, getting to the semi-final in your first external competition is massive, and hopefully on the back of this podcast as well, promoting the mooting side of things at the Law Society at Stirling, hopefully we can get some more people involved. I know we had a few spectators at the semi-final yesterday, so I'm wondering if maybe they've got one eye on it, thinking this is something I would like to get involved with. So just on that front, I suppose that leads on nicely to my next question about who would be a good fit for mooting. If someone has a particular interest or particular characteristics, particular strengths that they like to play to, who would you say should get involved, Megan? Who fits this role down to the ground?
Honestly, anyone. Like, mooting, it's not you sitting there or standing there on your own. It is a team game, and you can be a researcher or a writer or a speaker like Holly and I were. And it's a great way to build all sorts of skills, from presentation to research to team building to leadership as well. To be able to self-motivate yourself. Like, I was so impressed with Holly. Like, her first, she produced her first two, she produced her first two speeches within like a day of getting the problem. I was like, okay, I've not even researched yet. Can we just take a step back and calm down, please?
Sorry.
Honestly, I was so impressed. Like, Holly is such a hard worker, and she was such a great person to have as a mooting partner, especially because going into it, I was going to be senior counsel, which is quite nerve-wracking because you're responsible for everything. And I couldn't have asked for a better person. But you could be someone who isn't confident in public speaking and looking to change that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something like when I was in my first year and the first semester, second year, it was something that I didn't think I would be interested in. But I mean, me and Holly are pretty close friends, anyway. So I was really there to support her, and then watching it, and I was really getting kind of into it. I was paying attention to what the other side were saying. I was paying attention to what kind of questions were being asked, and I was really getting like quite animated at it. You get behind the screen, you're like, come on, keep going. And it's great, and it, obviously I've got a lot going on with the podcast and different commitments and stuff, but it is something that I would like to kind of dip my toes in at some point. So I suppose that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, like Megan says, if you're even if you're not confident, if it's not something that you think you maybe be interested in, give it a shot. I'm sure we'll have like give it a go sessions at the start of every academic year, just to try and get your toes in the water and see how it feels. So definitely, if you're interested, then contact either Holly or Megan and get yourself involved. So should someone wish to get involved at Stirling, what is the process? Should they reach out to you individually? Should they reach out to society? I suppose, Holly, you could answer this question. How can they do it?
Yeah. So there's multiple ways of doing it. Give me and Megan a shout, honestly. I'm sure we can get our email addresses out there or whatever. We have a Facebook page, which is Mooting Stirling, which you can join, and you can throw us a wee message over there. Go through the Law Society if you want to kind of be part of that community as well, because obviously it's attached, but it also gives you such a broad amount of experience as well, like the podcast and obviously the recent legal aid stuff you guys had on as well. So it's a really good community to get involved in. Just to kind of jump on the back of what Megan was saying about roles and stuff, there are so many different roles involved, and I think that's one thing that we would have massively loved for a wee bit of help, was probably some researchers. We've got some really, really clever people on this course in all years. So there was one question that came up for me. I was like, oh no, I haven't done any research on this. And it was just because I didn't have the time. And basically it was just, what was the effect of a more recent case on an older case that we had used that had been kind of dismissed by a Supreme Court case. And I hadn't had time to really look into that. So I just smiled in the camera, and I think the judge knew. I was like,
yeah,
well, your lordship. And I was just I just scraped my way through. So there are so many opportunities to really be part of something that will not only improve your employability, but also your university skills, because you will become an expert on so many different parts of law. Like, now I think me and Megan are like, derelict and damages, we've got this. Like,
yeah, I'm going to be
okay.
applying to Digby Brown.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah. So, yeah, just kind of wanted to like jump on that. But getting involved, there are so many ways of getting involved. We are going to try and do like a sort of Zoom chat talk thing about mooting. So we'll set that up and we'll send that through the Law Society. We'll send it through the Facebook page as well. We're going to email Tickus as well, the law coordinator, so she can get that out through the newsletter as well. So come along to that. It's very informal. Yeah, I think. And Megan, anything else you want to add to that?
No, just don't be afraid to ask questions. Holly and I were completely oblivious to specific parts of mooting even when we were doing the competition. Like, I got asked 2 questions in the semi-final, which were gut-wrenching and very embarrassing. But I can't help but thank, QC Kerrigan for doing it, because it pointed out things that I just wasn't aware of. So with mooting, I didn't realise that you couldn't just use cases that support your argument, but you could also use cases that contradict your argument and then basically contradict that case. So that was one of the questions I got asked was, why didn't you use the A.J. Allen case? And I was like, well, I'm arguing for the appellant. And he was like, yeah, I know that. And I was just sitting there like, I'm so confused. That's a respondent supporting case. Like, why would I use A.J. Allen? And he was like, it's a pivotal case surrounding the issue. And I was like, but it doesn't support my argument. He was like, but you should still talk about it. So that was a really interesting point for me. And also, just like Holly was saying, it is really fun and really enjoyable, but it would have been so much easier with a couple of people to, support us through it. We did have the 2 Kyles, and they helped us with the original writing, but they're both, got their dissertations and stuff, so they helped us with the writing of the speeches, but then they had their own things to do. So when it came to actually doing more in-depth background research, I in particular was definitely caught out. I was asked, are there any other cases concerning the fire service in the past 5 years that would better support your argument or that would contradict your argument? And I just had to hold my hands up, and I was like, I'm not entirely sure, my lord. And he was like, so you've not researched it? I was like, I have, I've just forgotten. So yeah, it's just, it does build a good community, and obviously you make friends through it. Like, I didn't know Holly before it, and now she's getting daily updates about my sick hamster. So
yeah,
it's definitely great. But if there's one thing that I would say is just don't be afraid, because you don't know your full potential until you've actually experienced something and gave it a shot. Holly and I didn't know that we were going to make it to the semi-finals. We were hoping for the bare minimum, and not to be big-headed, but look what we managed to achieve at the first attempt. So you never really know how good you are until you give it a try.
Yeah, that's some great advice, Megan. And I mean, to be fair to you, I know, like we say, the semi-final is obviously a knockout round, but I remember QC Bert Kerrigan saying that if it was a scored process, it would be very, very tight. And even sitting through the moot, or through that stage of the competition, you could see that it was very tight. There wasn't any side running away with it. It was always going to be tight. So maybe on another day you could have even went one step further and got to the final. I suppose that's just credit to Glasgow for being that extra bit stronger. So just to round off, like we're saying, people getting involved, what can they expect to be involved in moving forward, Holly? What is next for the mooting team? If someone was to join, say, tomorrow, what can they expect to happen in the coming weeks or months?
Okay, so I think the first thing is definitely we need to do this talk so people kind of like know exactly, kind of a bit more detail, what exactly mooting is, what multiple roles are involved, like how the process works. And I think from then, we're looking at doing potentially the Alexander Stone, which is the Glasgow Moot. So that'll be another external competition. And I think also we will be looking at maybe doing some more, maybe 1 or 2 internals. It's a bit difficult for the second years because I know that we've obviously got our commercial moot coming up at some point.
Yep.
So what would be nice is to maybe like try and get a little bit more detail about what's expected for that, if that's okay with Sam, because obviously we don't want to like tread on anyone's toes. But it would be nice to maybe just try out a little, you know, mock internal moot, just see what people think. And just, as Megan said, just making sure that no one's like feeling uncertain or anxious or afraid to try it, because it's really honestly not. It's so good. It is so good. And you get, just like you did, you get hyped. You're like, oh, I'll take you on. You give me any questions you've got, and I might not be able to answer them, but I'll take them.
I'll waffle on and waste 3 minutes of my time and not be able to finish my speech, but I feel good doing it.
So I think just building people's confidence, and just like, I think people feel more empowered to do something if they know what it's about. So just getting the information out of there and piquing the interest, and just getting people like trying it for a little bit and seeing if they like it, and hopefully just like inspiring them, because honestly, if I can do it, anybody can do it, trust me. So
Yes, being modest, folks. She was better than me.
She's been very modest, Holly. You don't have to play yourself down, but you absolutely smashed it out of the park, if we're being honest. And to be fair, both of you smashed it out of the park. I was there for both, you know, the 2 Saturdays when it happened, and you both stood out. Obviously, I'm a bit biased because, you know, Stirling students, but I thought you were great. And, you know, as someone who is not familiar with mooting, you know, someone who's just kind of sitting there with kind of like a blank eye, not got much knowledge of the subject whatsoever, you two stood out and you absolutely smashed it out of the park. So honestly, massive congratulations to the pair of you. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how mooting at Stirling progresses from this, because I feel like this is going to be a lot of momentum on that front. You know, with this podcast going out, with the Lord Jones success as well, obviously it's really going to give it some momentum, I think. So I think that's probably the best place to leave it. I know we're roughly at 30 minutes just now, so that's probably give a good account as to what mooting is and how to get involved. So like Megan and Holly say, give it a go. If you're already a member of the Law Society at Stirling, you can feel free to give it a go. If it's not something you enjoy, you don't have to continue doing it. Just give it a little try, see if you enjoy it, and you never know, you might surprise yourself and end up being a really, really good mooter and something that you enjoy. So yeah, I would just like to thank the pair of you for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure to discuss this topic with both of you. It's even I've managed to take some knowledge from it, so thank you for that. And Megan, all the best with your dissertation. Like you said, you're a 4th year, and all the best to your poor little sitcam. So I know we've been getting some updates on that, so fingers crossed all's good on that front. And Holly, for you, I'll see you at some point this week in a seminar, no doubt.
Probably aye. When was it, Tuesday?
Tuesday, yeah, I'll probably see you Tuesday, Holly. So yeah, thanks very much, guys, for coming on, and
no problem.
Speak to you all soon.
Thank you soon. Bye.
Thank you very much for listening to another episode of our podcast. If you like what you hear, please follow us on your podcast platform of choice to ensure that you never miss an upload. To keep up to date with us, you can follow our Instagram page, which is Stir Law Society. Additionally, our Twitter is @_Stir Law Society. In the meantime, it's goodbye from me, and I'll speak to you again very soon.